Welcome to the Fire Time Podcast, where it's never hot enough, slow is fast, and the way to win is to make it so stupidly easy to buy from you that there's no excuse not to. I'm your host, Tim Reed. And as always, I'm so excited to be here today. Welcome to episode 50 of the Fire Time Podcast. That's right, 50. It is crazy to think that we've had this many episodes. I was scrolling back through on my phone just being like, man, this is a lot of hours of content, and I'm loving it. So thank you for listening. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your partnership in this. Well, I feel like we have to keep talking about the COVID-19 crisis because this is such a big deal. I mean, businesses are being shut down all over the country, and like it or not, everyone's got a little bit more downtime than they're used to. The beauty of that is that this is actually a time when you can start to invest in your business. You can start to think about your systems and processes, and you can actually work on your own craft as a salesperson. And especially for sales reps right now, I know that travel is probably non-existent. Everything is going to be by phone, but I'd imagine that you have a little bit more time to kill. And I'm really excited for today's episode because I feel like this topic is more relevant than ever. A lot of the interviews in our podcast are from the retailer's perspective, but today I'm really excited to shift to the perspective of the B2B sales rep. And I'll tell you the story about how this episode came out. It's really funny. So my friend Craig Newby is one of the owners of a large distributor in Seattle called Associated Energy Systems. And now Craig has a friend named David who owns a distribution company just across the border in Vancouver, BC. And David reached out to me and said, hey, I love the podcast and I want to chat with you about some ideas. So I got on the phone with him and he started talking about the idea of sales reps wasting people's time. And essentially what happened is he said, Tim, I'd like you to come up to Seattle and me and Craig Newby are going to interview you about what are the traits of a good sales rep. What does it take for a sales rep to give value to you? So I was excited about this, and so I drove up to Seattle, and we got together, and I had no idea what the questions were. I told him I wanted to come in totally blind, and I wanted to just speak from the heart, and hopefully I could give some value to the conversation. And as we got into this conversation, it was incredible. I get these moments sometimes as I'm recording interviews for the podcast where I just think to myself, this is going to be really special. And that's how I felt for this entire conversation. And the conversation is so powerful that we're actually going to break it into a 2-part episode because I do not want you to miss it if the episode gets to be too long. So this week is going to be part 1. Next week is going to be part 2. But David was the one that had the idea for the title of this episode, Sales Rep, Don't Waste My Time. So I hope you guys enjoy the conversation with Craig and with David. They are both terrific people that are running amazing businesses. And if you're someone who's a sales rep, my hope is that this helps you deliver more value than anybody else so your customers are wild about doing business with you. Joining me from Kent, Washington are the owners of 2 major distribution companies in the hearth industry. I'm joined by David Rosvold of Northwest Stoves in Vancouver, BC, and Craig Newby out of Associated Energy Systems here in Kent, Washington. How you doing, guys?
Just fine. Great. Good morning, sir.
Hey. Well, I'm excited that you guys are here. You know, it's funny the way that this episode came about. So, David, we connected via email a few months ago, and we were having a conversation about what is it that makes a good sales rep. And you actually asked to come on the podcast and flip the tables around and hit me with questions about how can sales reps deliver value to their customers versus waste their time. And I have no idea what these questions are. So, we'll see what happens. I hope I give some good responses. But the heart behind this episode is going to be really thinking from a sales rep's perspective, you know, what can I do to understand my customer? What can I do to make myself different than the competition to where I become a trusted resource and someone that they call looking for guidance, as opposed to someone that when they see the car pull up, they run and hide in their office and act like they're busy. So I think it's going to be a really good conversation, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here with you guys.
Well, Tim, first, thank you for doing this, but I have to say congratulations to you and your tenacity. I've tried to dodge you for, 2.5 months?
You
to avoid this? Actually, you got me. I'm here.
You have tried to dodge me for about 1.5 years. So true story, when this podcast started in season 1, Craig, I wanted to do an episode with you about relational selling, because you are like the master of this. And you avoided my emails, and instead you put me in touch with Heather Smith, who killed it in her episode, and I'm so thankful for it. But I've been chasing you for a year and a half, so here we are.
Here I am.
So I guess, Tim, I guess the brainchild behind all of this was, I was talking with Craig, one day, and, he was going on a little bit of a rant about, he had just sat down with a manufacturer sales rep.
Yeah.
And he called me and he's like, David, like, it was just a waste of my time. Like, he said, that's time in my life I'm never going to get back.
Yeah.
And there was no value added. And then shortly thereafter, I sat down with a sales rep, with our sales manager, and it was like, wow, that was useless. There was nothing. He presented brochures and just read them to me. And so then that's so then I reached out to you and said,
yeah,
well, what is a good sales rep? We're all trying to, whether it's from a retailer, for a distributor, manufacturer, whether you're the guy selling photocopiers.
Yeah.
What is a good sales rep? And that's, the thought was, what would be a good title for this, podcast?
Yeah.
And I've got, I wrote it down and said, please, don't waste my time.
Yes.
Craig wasn't sure about, about that, but I think it's something that we're all face every day with sales reps. So I guess my first question for you, Tim, is, John from XYZ Stoves just called and said, Tim, I'm in town. Can I come see you? Or even worse, just opened the door and walked in and said, Tim, can I have 10 minutes of your time?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? What goes through your mind when you're presented with that type of a situation from a sales rep?
Oh, man. Honestly, what goes through my mind is that they don't respect me, they don't respect my business, and they don't understand it. Because it would be so similar. I mean, you guys are busy people. And we were talking about this offline before we started. You guys are both busy people. You have a lot going on running these companies. And what would happen if you're in the middle of a very important meeting, or you have a lot of things you have to get done in the day, and all of a sudden someone just shows up, and maybe you know them, but they just show up, drop into your meeting, and just say, "Hey, David, I'm here. Let's go get a cup of coffee. Let's just go talk." And that is total disrespect for your time. It's total disrespect for your business. And it shows that they actually don't value you, that they have an agenda that's obviously more important than your agenda. And so you better just work things out to meet with them. I can't describe it in any more, in any more stark terms than that it's an utter disrespect of my time, even if I like the person.
Yeah, good point. I get frustrated. I mean, I just flat out won't do it. And I'm not as kind as you. I mean, you handle it in a nice, kind way. I just flat out, I probably wouldn't even go out and meet the person in the lobby. Anyway, disrespect that's a great...
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. So literally yesterday, and it's a little bit different for dealers, where for me, even though I'm in a leadership position, my office is on the showroom floor, and I walk around the showroom floor a lot to check different things. So it's very feasible that a rep could run into me. And we had a situation yesterday where an unnamed rep walked into the showroom, and I happened to bump into them. And what they immediately did is they said, "Hey, is this a good time to talk to you?" And I'll give you context to this. So that week, I was on vacation Monday through Wednesday, and this was on a Thursday. And this week, that Thursday was my only day in the office, because on Friday, I was coming up here to Seattle to record this conversation. So this means that my Thursday, I got to get a lot of stuff done. So I got objectives. I go from thing to thing to thing. So this sales rep comes in, happens to bump into me, and they ask, "Is this a good time?" And I just said, "Honestly, no, it's a terrible time. Could we reschedule something later?" Now, they were from a number of states away. They don't come out here very often. They couldn't. So they just started asking me a couple questions. And I was being polite, and I answered a couple questions. And we ended up talking for probably 5 minutes. And they gave me a pamphlet of brochures, and then they left. Now, a couple things with this. Number one, we were standing the whole time. We were not sitting down. My head was not in this conversation a bit. And as soon as they left, I took what they gave me, I put it in the garbage, and I went on with my day. And this conversation is really the first I've thought about it since, and I'm not going to think about it again. Now, from that rep's perspective, they checked the box. They get to go back and tell their company, "Hey, I got the decision maker. It was the right place, right time, 5 minutes, asked some questions, gave them our materials. Are they ever going to follow up with me again? Probably not. But what they did as a rep is they checked the box, because that was actually more important to them than understanding my business and making a sale.
As much as some of us, or maybe many of us, want business to be as usual or as it has been, that's not reality today. And I can use me for an example. When I used to be out on the road making sales calls, I had good relationships with dealers, and I could just say, "Hey, Tim, got this new product. Can I come by and show it to you?" That doesn't work anymore. You got to know the customer. Yeah. So if I were to call you and said, "Hey, Tim, I've got this new product. Can can we schedule a time that I can come show this product to you?" What would some of your questions be? Just, "Yeah, sure, Craig, come Wednesday at 3, or what's your first defense?
Well, I think it number one, it goes to reps have to understand their customer, because every customer is going to be different, right? For me, I actually probably don't want a phone call. I would love an email or a text message, because a phone call makes me interrupt what I'm doing. And I mean, you guys are the same way. Like, Craig, I called you last night and I left you a voicemail, and I didn't get a call back until this morning, because what I did, it was actually interrupting what you were doing. So you screen the call, you listen to the voicemail, and we talk today. And we have a close relationship, right?
Yep.
So imagine someone that we don't have as close of a relationship. Like, I'm actually annoyed sometimes when you call me. A text message or a courteous email, for me, it helps me and it delivers value to me. And then I will call you because I'm the customer, right? So I will call you when it's convenient for me. But in a customer seller relationship, you have to mold what you do to fit the customer, not vice versa. So for me, a text or an email is a terrific way to get in touch with me. The questions that go through my mind, the first one is, what problems of mine does this solve? So if someone says, "Hey, I got a new product I want to show you," and that's it, that actually doesn't solve any of my problems. I don't need a new product. I got too many products as is, right? This is like, you guys are distributors. You've got too many. Like, I need less SKU numbers, not more. Right? Same thing for me. It's different if they say, "Hey, Tim, as I've been in your showrooms for the last couple of years, I've noticed that you've got a weak point in your clean face fireplaces, and I think that you're actually losing some market share. We have something that I think could be a great solution to help you make more sales. Could I have some time to show it to you?" That's a different conversation than, "I have a new product. Can I have you take a look at it?"
So off air, we were talking, and you mentioned, salespeople today. I don't care how many books you've read, how much, college, whatever. Throw that book away. I don't care. You need to learn about me. Yeah. Learn about Fireside. Learn about Tim. Yep. And I'm going to use my dad as an analogy here, who passed away in 2001. But my dad taught me, this might sound kind of mean, but people like to hear themselves talk.
Absolutely.
So my dad taught me, and I never forgot, and I think I did a pretty good job of this, keep asking the customer questions until they stop talking. You'll know when you've gone long enough, they'll just stop talking. But They will tell you anything and everything you need to know. They'll tell you what's bad about this product. They'll walk you over to the product that's driving them crazy, if you'll ask the question and then shut your mouth and listen, right? And so where am I going with this analogy is, you're saying the customer needs to learn you, Tim. Well, the only way I'm going to learn about you is I need to ask you some questions. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of answers to those questions online. Like, we have this amazing thing called the internet now, where you can actually learn a lot about me. Yeah. Now, I'm a unique opportunity for people that want to sell to me, because you know what? There are 58 episodes of a podcast of me talking about my life and my problems and my opportunities. Do you think that helps you understand me? Like, one of the things I get when I go speak is I have people come talk to me and say, "Tim, I know you. You don't know me, but I know you." The same thing is true for your dealers. They may not have a podcast, but there is information about them that you can learn from their company's website. Maybe you connect with them on LinkedIn. Maybe you call a friendly sales rep that sells them a different product and says, "Hey, can you tell me about this business?" Or maybe you go in as a secret shopper and you just spend some time in their showroom. There are ways to learn your customer, and it pays huge dividends. One of the things, Bradley Hartman is so good talking about this. He's been on the podcast a couple times, but his entire premise is built on one simple phrase: you are owed nothing. Deliver value first. You're owed nothing. Like, so for me in sales, like, I'm not owed your business. You don't owe me a thing. I have to prove that I can give you value before you'll spend any money with me. And frankly, most sales reps don't understand that. They assume that even if we have a cordial relationship, that they are owed something, and they're not.
So, Tim, if you think back to, the manufacturer reps or the distributor reps that are calling on you, which are the ones that, when you get a phone call and it's, this rep's coming into town, which are the ones that you go, okay, I will give you, as much time as I can get with you, versus the ones where you literally run and hide, or you dodge them for as long as possible. What makes the successful ones? What is it that stands out in you? Like, what are the top 3 things or 4 things that you look forward to?
You're putting me on the spot, but I'm going to try to give you 3 things. I think number 1 is that they understand my business. Number 2 is that because they understand my business, they come to me with solutions for my problems. And number 3 being they give tools to my sales team to make it easier to sell. I think those are the top 3. Now, when you think about that, product knowledge isn't in that top 3. Now, you probably have to have some product knowledge in order to be able to help me solve my problems, but not necessarily. Mm-hmm. You can have very surface level product knowledge and still be able to solve a lot of my problems if you understand my business. Now, I'm not down on product knowledge, and that's one of the things that I get sometimes as I speak and talking about making it easy is people say, well, you're trying to commoditize this and just make it like going to McDonald's. And I'm not, but I'm trying to put product knowledge in its proper place. That product knowledge supports what you do. It is not the most important thing about you as a sales rep. And you have to be careful and nuance that out because that can be taken out of context. But knowing the most about your product does not make you the best salesperson. And frankly, a lot of the time it makes you one of the worst salespeople. We'll get back to our interview with Craig Newby and David Rosvold in just 1 minute. With everything that's going on today, it's more important than ever that you've got a website that connects with customers, generates an estimate for their project, and makes a sale without them ever coming into your showroom. Now, this is something that a month ago, a lot of us would have said, yeah, that'd be nice, but I think they still need to come into my showroom for that experience. But the truth is, with where we are now in the COVID-19 crisis, we have to prepare our businesses to be able to work 100% remote. And that means that your website needs to be fine-tuned. Well, for the last 3 years, I've been building a platform called Wi-Fire that partners with your website to connect with customers, generate instant, customized estimates for their projects, and schedule appointments either in person or virtually for you to walk through a customer's job and make the sale. Now, the truth of the matter is that right now, no one can predict the future. We just don't know what things are going to look like in the next couple of months. But what we do know is that while showrooms are shutting down, we have to take advantage of our websites because the traffic is there. So if you'd like your website to be able to generate customized estimates, connect with customers, and make sales without anyone coming into the showroom, you need to go to wyfire.com and sign up. That's WHYFIRE.com.
Do you find that with reps that are calling on you that it's that, what we would call just the data dump? Here's the brochure, and they're reading a brochure to you. Yeah. And I'm sure you know how to read. Your sales reps know how to read.
Yep.
And we get into this rut of here's the brochure, listing the BTUs. Do you find that the sales reps are sometimes overcomplicating things or, bringing too much of the unnecessary information to the situation?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. A lot of the time sales reps come in, and I don't mean this to sound negative, but I think we have to talk about the problem before we can talk about the solution. Most sales reps come in with a book or a catalog that they're trying to sell me. And so they put brochures in front of me, and they say, well, hey, I got this product, and it's got 50,000 BTUs an hour, and hey, guess what? We have a free fan special that's going on right now. And if you take advantage right now, you're going to get 60-day terms. But you know what? If you buy 5 of these, we're going to add a 0.15 multiplier to it, and we'll actually extend those terms to 90 days. So here, you just take these 5 different brochures that have 5 different terms of what they're going to do, and you just let me know what's going to be best. Okay, Tim, I'll see you later. And that's literally they literally just dropped a bomb on my desk and left. And I've talked about this before, but for me, after they leave, I just throw it all in the garbage and I keep going with my day. Like it was a waste of their time and my time. And they think they've checked the box. They think that, hey, I got in front of Tim. I got in front of the decision maker. I gave him this, this, and this. And as soon as they leave it, I throw it away because it doesn't help me. the things that are valuable in that. Now, and I'm not saying that those don't have value, but they're not presented to me in a way that solves my problems. And I'm so busy with what I got, I don't have time to think about this. Like, I need you to understand me. It goes back to the fact that, like, it's not fair. But selling to any customer is not fair. It's not a level playing field, right? The customer doesn't have to do business with you. You're not owed anything. So you have to acquiesce to them in order to put yourself in a position to win business. And to just drop these brochures on my desk, talk to me about it, and bring in a box of donuts and then leave, they've just interrupted the flow of my day, and so their stuff goes in the garbage. Versus if they really know and understand my business, and they bring me one thing, but they schedule it ahead of time and say, Tim, I know that you do a lot with this line of fireplaces. We have a promotion coming up that can save you a ton of money. I'd love to get 30 minutes 2 weeks from now to come in and talk about it. And if you can have this ready for the conversation, I'll come with this. And I will actually help you write this order up. And then we can place it together so you never have to think about it after I'm gone. All of a sudden, that solves my problems. To just leave me to do that, and again, this is contextual. Some dealers might want to take it and sit on it. But frankly, most people are moving so fast that it won't get done. Correct. And if you want it's the whole thing of like, if a retail customer comes into our showroom and we show them a fireplace and they say, we give them a bunch of brochures and they say, well, we're going to take this and think about it. And I say, okay, perfect. Here's a business card. You just call me. Am I going to get a phone call back? Like maybe 1 out of 10, but like not many. What I need to do is say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, why don't we have a seat and let me just send you a quick number for what this is going to be. Right? I need to do that with them because A, it actually gives them the information they need to make a buying decision, even if that buying decision's no. But number two, it gives me a way to follow up with them, right? This is a little bit different because sales reps do have a way to follow up with me. Most of them, frankly, don't. But with how busy I am and with how many things are going on in my life, just the simplicity of presenting me one opportunity for products that I already do business with that I want to buy more of. They know that because of our volume, showing me how it can save me money and save me time by saying, hey, look, Tim, you just get this ready for the conversation. I'll come with this and I'm going to help you step by step. We're just going to knock this out. Man, that's like having an assistant. I don't have an assistant, but if I can get you for 30 minutes to help me write out my orders, dude, like, oh my gosh, like done.
I'm sitting here listening to you and my mind's going back years and years of writing with our AES outside salespeople, and I can't even tell you how many times our salespeople would do just what you mentioned a minute ago. Here, let me just drop off this brochure and I'll get back to you. And I'd get in the van and I'd think, that guy is never going to look at that brochure. There's no way. And he's not going to take your call when you call back. Bad on my part. I didn't stop that person and go, okay, you're just wasting time. You feel good because he took your brochure.
They checked the box.
But he also wanted you to get out of the store. That's why he took the brochure so you'd leave.
Well, what are sales reps graded on in many cases? Did you do this? Did you go to this dealer? Did you get a meeting with this person? Did you give them the brochure? They're graded. Their job is dependent on checking boxes. Right. Is that what's actually important to move the needle? No.
Not at all.
There needs to be a scoreboard, but that scoreboard needs to be filled with contextual things that actually move the needle. It would be like, we talk about this on the podcast about lead measures versus lag measures, and lag measures are super important. That's a lag measure is going to be like, what was our margin for the month of August, right? Super important to know that. But the problem is that number doesn't come out until August is over. So by the time I get that number, is there anything I can do about it? Nope, it's done. I'm driving through the rearview mirror. Now, these measures are very important, but we need lead measures. What are the behaviors that will lead to that lag measure being moved, right? So if my lag measure is I want my margin in August to be at this level, I need to reverse engineer. Okay, what are the behaviors my sales reps need to exhibit a month ahead, 2 months ahead, 3 months ahead, whatever, to get to that? And that's what they need to be graded on, not just, did you get a meeting with this person? Did you do this? Did you do that? I'm not saying those things aren't important, but I'm saying that we should probably think about how we evaluate our sales reps to set them up to succeed. If I grade my sales team on the retail floor on things that don't move the needle, but every week I give them a scoreboard, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? What are they going to do? They're going to do the behavior that they get rewarded for, or not yelled at, for doing.
Right. Hey, relationships. How, I don't know if I want to say on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, 10 being really, it's very, very important. How important is it for you, who you're buying from, to have that person take you to lunch, dinner, go golfing, go fishing. I mean, is that a big determining factor on how much you'll buy from somebody, or is that like, hey, that's just a bonus? No, the salesperson doesn't need to do that. I'm just curious.
I'm laughing because a couple podcasts ago, I forget what episode it was, but we were talking about giving value. And one thing I mentioned is I said, never invite me fishing. Don't do it. Like I never, it's not that I have anything against fishing, but like, dude, my life is so busy. I don't have 12 hours to go sit in a boat and like drink beer with you. I'm sorry. I don't. So here's what I think about. It's the difference between high touch content and low touch content. So going golfing, going fishing, going to lunch, that's a high touch activity. That demands a lot of me. Yep. Now, that can be a good thing. Again, everything is contextual to understanding who your customer is, right? So for Tim, don't invite me fishing. For me, invite me to go to a Blazer game. Ask if I want to take an hour off of work to go play pickup basketball. Dude, like, all right, like I'm in. Now, reps may not want to play pickup basketball, but the point is those are actually high-touch activities that are very valuable to me. I would say even more importantly than that, though, is if I audit my life, like, I'm trying to eliminate busyness in my life. Like, that's one of my goals, like, for the rest of my life, honestly, ongoing, is do the things that are important, not the things that are urgent. Like, do the things that matter. And when I think about that, okay, I've got a job that I work a lot of hours in. I've got a podcast that, the average episode probably takes me 8 to 9 hours worth of work to do the interview, schedule it, get it edited, get it posted. And we put out 30 podcasts a year. I go and do speaking engagements. So I fly to 15, 20 states a year to go do speaking engagements. I've got a wife who I love desperately. I've got 2 little kids in my house. Like, my life is full, and I am actually trying to quit things. So do I have time to go sit with you on a golf course? Even if you're a great, I don't even have time with my best friends to do that, much less a sales rep who I like. Like, I like them. There's no ill will there, but it's not in my wheelhouse of important things for me. So what I need is low touch, high value pieces of content. And if something is right for me, they can reach out and just say, hey, Tim, I know you're slammed with everything you have. We had this. We're going to a Blazer game next week. There's zero pressure, but I just wanted to throw it your way. Or even better yet, would you want to take your kids to that Blazer game? I won't even come. Dude, I'm in. Like, you're going to buy me tickets to take my wife and kids to the Blazer game, and you're not going to come? Amazing, right? Right. Now, sales reps don't often get rewarded on that, but that actually buys me loyalty. Mm-hmm. The point I'm making with it is that low-touch content is much more valuable. So being able to send me a thoughtful article, hey, Tim, I know that you're really busy and you've got multiple sales reps that are underneath you. Here's an amazing article about how brick and mortar can outlast the onslaught of big box store disruption. Man, that's valuable for me, right? I'm gonna start to think of them as a resource. Hey, Craig, thank you for sending me that article. Man, I used it in a meeting and it was great because it taught me something and it also makes me look really smart in front of my team. That is low touch, but it's so high value to me, right? Hey, Tim, here's a podcast episode I was listening to where Jim Collins talks about what was behind the book Good to Great. I know you're a big Jim Collins fan. Oh my gosh, I can listen to that while I'm on a run. It takes me no extra time to do, and it's immense value. So I'm not saying that high-touch activities are wrong because they can be right. But what I'll say is that you have to understand your customer and what's right for them. And for me in my stage of life, it's probably not the right thing.
Okay, good to know.
How have you seen, Tim, the role of the rep changing over the last 5 years, 10 years? Kind of like what Craig was saying is, dinner and a bottle of wine used to mean that you were a successful rep.
Yeah.
And I made a note here saying that, being a sales rep is more than having a credit card and a cell phone.
Yeah.
So what have you seen over your time where what a rep did before to what you're now expecting out of a rep today?
Man, that's an insightful question. That's a really insightful question, David. One thing I want to say, going back to the going out to dinner and a bottle of wine, I will say there are times where that is so valuable. If I'm traveling out of the office, like if I'm at HPBA, or if I go to either of your dealer events where I'm out of the office, all of a sudden that becomes so valuable to me. Because otherwise, I'm alone. I go to a hotel room by myself, maybe mess around on email for an hour and go to bed, right? Versus you as the distributor, or maybe you're rolling out the red carpet. Tim, we're so thankful. We're going to go get this great dinner. We're going to enjoy a bottle of wine. We're going to talk about business. And the reason is that because I've already interrupted my flow to come and do something different, now high touch becomes so valuable to me. So I would say take advantage of trade shows, take advantage of dealer days and opportunities like that. It's tougher for me when I'm in the whirlwind of my day-to-day life. So I wouldn't have thought about that until you asked the question that way, David. But I think what's changed is the same thing that's actually changed for sales reps on the retail showroom floor is there's been a disruption of information. It used to be that the rep was the gatekeeper of the information in a lot of ways. And likewise, the salesperson was the gatekeeper of information for the retail customer. The internet's changed all that. The information itself is commoditized. I don't need a rep to give me the information. Right. I can go and get that anytime, any place. Just like a retail customer, they don't need me to tell them about a certain model of gas inserts. They can go to the website. They don't need that. Now, that doesn't make me obsolete. It actually makes my job better. Because instead of starting at ground zero and trying to build a tower, man, we can start 4 floors up. Like, we got a foundation built. They've done some research. Now, I can help calibrate them in the right direction. But now what comes into play, me and VP Berger have talked about this a lot, and it's a brilliant term that's called requisite variety. And now what's happening is I need to give them requisite variety, enough variety that they can make a decision, but not so much that they're crippled with indecision where they don't do anything. But I can now give them requisite variety because of the understanding they have. And now the beauty of the salesperson is not in, do you want a fireplace or not? It's in, which model's right for you? And I can use my knowledge and my context and my industry experience to know these are the 4 models that are best for them. Let's go take a look at these, as opposed to everything in the showroom. Do you even want to buy a fireplace? Well, I think that you're asking the question about how it pertains to a sales rep, and I think that the same thing is true for them. So I can read about your products. I might have questions here or there to ask you, but I understand if a fireplace is 35,000 BTUs. I understand what passive heat is. Everybody's got it. I understand that stuff. And so what's changed is that the rep is no longer the gatekeeper of information. I would say the rep is now the business advisor and consultant that understands the marketplace in a way that I don't. They really do. A rep has powerful information that, frankly, most of them don't even realize. In the same way that, man, you guys know things about running a company that you don't even realize, right? I probably know things about retail sales that I don't realize because I do it every day. It's the curse of knowledge, right? We forget what it was like to not know this stuff. Man, reps understand the marketplace. They know what's selling. They know what is working for displays and things. And now if they can become a business advisor where the product, that'll take care of itself. Let's talk about the problems that you're having, what I've seen in the marketplace. And again, for the rep, requisite variety. Don't throw the whole book at me. Give me, Tim, what are the 3 things? What are the 2 things that could really move the needle for me and let me make that decision?
Actually, this is a question for Craig. When you're hiring or interviewing for a distributor sales rep, what are some of the things that you're looking for, or what are the, like we just discussed, anybody can read a brochure, anybody can read a manual. What are those other values or personality traits that you're looking for that would make a successful rep for AES?
So at AES, typically if we're hiring, which we're actually looking for an outside sales.
That's not why you brought me here today, is it?
You're overqualified. So what we do is it's myself, Jeff Davidson, our CFO, and my brother Kirk. 3 of us meet with this person because we're all looking for different things. I'm not high tech at all, so I'm just wanting to actually see that person's face, see his mannerisms, or her mannerisms, excuse me. Is it somebody that, I use this analogy a lot, would I want to take this person home to meet my wife?
Yeah. And
if the answer is heck no, then it's probably not going to work. I know that's cold and mean.
No, it's amazing. That's amazing.
Because when people come and see me for the first time as a rep, I'm reading them like a book as fast as, 30 seconds. I can tell if I'm going to like this person or not. So that's what I look for. Now, Kirk and Jeff go into more detail and ask, brilliant questions. So I'm just one of those guys that pretty much just observes, asks simple questions, and, takes me about 10 minutes, and I'm either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So, which is good that we have two other people that do the interviewing.
So I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, and at Ramsey Solutions, they have an intense interview process. It takes like 12 interviews to get hired, and they say on average it takes 90 to 120 days from the first interview to getting hired. That's crazy, and maybe they're overkill on that, but the final interview is a dinner with the potential new hire and their spouse and the divisional leader of the company and their spouse. That's the final interview.
Okay.
Because they want to know in a non-work setting, what are you like? And as Dave Ramsey says, he goes, I want to know if you're married to crazy. Because if you're married to crazy, you're not working here.
I will add one more thing. I have started to ask the person that we're interviewing, do you know much about our company? Any history? Did you get on our website? And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, that's your first strike against you, because you can sit at home and check all this stuff out.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right now. Okay, so think about this. If I'm coming for an interview at AES, right, this is a major company. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but you guys have to be one of the biggest distribution companies in the United States. You cover a massive territory. So it's a big deal to get a job here. So if I come into an interview and you ask me, hey, Tim, what are your strengths or what are your weaknesses? And I think of great answers to say, well, my biggest strength is I care too much. My biggest weakness is I work too hard, right? I mean, you're going to read me like a book. But what if I come in and the conversation starts to be, hey, as someone that's worked at a retailer for the last 15 years, I've learned a lot about AES sales reps. Now, I've actually seen that they've missed a lot of opportunities to sell retailers' products because they're not looking for A, B, and C. I think what we could do is we could come in with this game plan to really understand the retailer. Based on that, we could look for opportunities here, here, and here. And I know just with our experience over the last 15 years, we probably would have bought 20% more from AES if our reps would have done this. I would like to come in and do that for you.
That would be powerful.
Has that ever happened in an interview?
Mind-blowing. No, it is not. No, that'd be pretty incredible.
But it's the same thing. So in an interview situation, you're the customer.
Yeah.
And so I, as the interviewee, have to think, what problems do you have and how can I solve them? So if I can come to you and say, hey, here's what I've observed, and I understand that this is a problem for AES, these are some solutions, and I would love to help you implement those solutions. Dude, as long as I'm a good fit, morally, and, I'm not a jerk, man, I think that there's probably some synergy there.
Okay, seriously, if you want to take a cut and pay, you got a job.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed part one of that conversation with Craig Newby and David Rosvold. I loved getting the chance to talk with them, and I think that there is so much gold here. If you're a sales rep listening to this, I think number one, schedule an appointment with your customers. Don't show up randomly. Even if you're a friend, schedule an appointment. I can't tell you how much more seriously your customer is going to take it when the time is scheduled and set aside versus when you just catch them randomly because you're in town. It is so powerful to do that, and it will set you apart from just about everybody else. Another thing to think about, too, is the fact that a rep has powerful market information. And I personally know friends that are calling reps all the time just asking, what are you seeing in the market? What's working? What's not? Reps have insight that as retailers, we don't have because you're traveling, you're seeing different markets, you're seeing what types of dealers customers are responding to, and that's really, really powerful. So find a way to give that knowledge to your customers because I guarantee you that if you're the source of knowledge for what's working in the marketplace, people are going to be coming to you to buy your products. Now, some people think, well, it's not exactly a one-to-one thing. I could give them this information and they still may not buy my products. I'm telling you, if you play the long game, you're going to win doing this. There's actually a sales rep I know in the Midwest who's done just an amazing thing, and he on his own is getting together a group of non-competitive dealers to meet to go over best practices and to help teach them how to run a better business. Because ultimately, he sees the big picture. He sees that even though they sell multiple lines, if they run a better business, he's going to sell more products. And that's something that any rep could do. It just takes a little bit of work to get going. I think the biggest theme of this conversation is the idea of understanding your customer. It's easy to say that, and a lot of sales reps might think they understand their customer's business, but I would sadly say that's not the case. One of the questions in the survey to join the FireTime network, if you're a retailer, has to do with how well sales reps and manufacturers understand your business. And what I've personally found to be true is being echoed over and over and over by these anonymous survey results, where dealers across the country are saying sales reps and manufacturers don't understand my business. They know I sell fireplaces, but they don't understand my business. And I'll just tell you that if I'm talking with someone who's trying to sell me something and I determine partway through the conversation that they don't understand my business, guess what? I check out. And I'm done, because if they don't understand my business, they're not going to be able to help me brainstorm a solution. So I would say dive headfirst into really understanding who your customer is, what their problems are, and you'll be able to then come alongside and help them solve them. If you can do that, you're going to sell a ton of products. So I hope that this conversation was terrific for you. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of it next week. If you haven't had a chance yet, you need to join the FireTime network. I talked about this in the podcast last week. This is basically a social media platform for the hearth industry, but it also has a library of content that you can use to grow your business. If you want to connect with like-minded people that know what you're going through, you need to go to thefiretimenetwork.com. Lastly, before I sign off, we created a Patreon account for this podcast. So if this podcast is something that gives you value, then I'd like you to contribute what you can to the cause. The website to go to is patreon.com/itsfiretime. That's patreon.com/itsfiretime. Now, this podcast is not about money, but like I said last week, money is the fuel to get us to our destination. And as the podcast is consuming more and more hours, we're trying to offload some of those responsibilities to other people so that we can keep this content as high quality as possible. So if you've gotten value out of this and you'd like to contribute, you can go to patreon.com/itsfiretime. If you're not able to contribute, hey, no problem. This is always going to be a free resource for you, and I want you to take advantage of it. So with all that in mind, we will get back to the rest of our conversation next week. But in the meantime, I hope that you can go out and deliver value first to your customers. Thank you for listening to the FireTime podcast. To learn more, visit the website itsfiretime.com. Music from this episode was written and recorded by In Bloom out of Portland, Oregon. We thank you for listening to the FireTime podcast, where it's never hot enough, slow is fast, and the way to win is to make it so stupidly easy to buy from you that there's no excuse not to. We'll see you next time.
All in to burn.